initially at the beginning of MB&F, I was terrified that nobody was going to buy anything I was going to do because it was so out there. It was so radical. And now, 19 years later, I'm not going to say I'm terrified, but I'm scared of disappointing the tribe of fans and owners of MB&F. People who believe in us. We've created a whole momentum. We have inspired people to think differently, to take risks, to be more creative, which is actually the why of our company. And I realized that in my case, if I'm not proud of it, we could disappoint the others. If I'm pretty proud of what we're doing, it'll be okay.
Welcome to Luxury on Air, where we explore the trends, innovations, and personalities defining and redefining the luxury industry.
Why to be in the norm when you can be different? How small in size is big in agility? Why only fools and dead men don't change their minds? This and more today with Max Büsser, founder and CEO of MB&F, which stands for Max Büsser and Friends. Max is a great storyteller, and for watch lovers, the story of the creation of his brand is no longer a secret. But beyond the evident, let's have a conversation around what has and is making Max and his friends still tick after nearly 20 years of existence. How to bring a brand and a concept to life, accept change and adapt to your environment, attract a new customer segment, continue to innovate, and prepare your legacy. Welcome back to Luxury on Air. My name is Karine Szegedi, and I have the pleasure of welcoming Max Büsser to this new episode of our podcast series. Max, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Looking forward.
So, Max, let's just jump in right away. So much has been told, about your journey that you went through from starting your career with very respected watch brands to creating finally your own brand nearly 20 years ago. But you're still, you're producing absolutely stunning and unique timepieces, and some of your timepieces are called legacy machines. So it seems now that you are at the time of your life where you prepare your own legacy and the legacy of MB&F. So what has changed, and what was the triggering event that made you think about this legacy?
Yeah, well, that's a seminal question. Thanks, Karine. I think, honestly, the first 10 years of MB&F, it was about survival. It was not about legacy. It was like trying not to go bankrupt, which we nearly went, I think, probably about 4 times in the first 10 years. And then the next 5 years was just rough and tough. And there was no question of the after. And then on 17th of March 2020, I sent back the whole team home. It's lockdown. All our suppliers are closed, of course. All our retail partners are closed. I'm sending my team back home. And I think it's finished. I think it's game over. Nobody's ever going to buy a high-end timepiece anymore. And I think it was the very first jolt where I realized this can actually stop. Luckily for us, like 3-4 months later, demand went absolutely ballistic. It was way higher than we ever had before. And since then, we've been rolling on an insane wave. But there was a moment there where you realize, wow, okay, this can stop. And it's also, I think, a question of mortality. I started losing a few friends who passed away from cancers and heart attacks and things like that. And let's say I'm on the wrong side of the road now, age-wise. So you have to start thinking of that. And there's a part of me as an artist who has this dream of, you know what? What if I say, 2030, that's in 6 years, I'll be 63. 2030, we stop. Guys, you've got 6 years to buy an MB&F, and then we stop and we liquidate. A bit like an artist who stops painting or sculpting or whatever.
But a lot of artists say they stop, but they never stop, and they come again and revival it again and again. Huh?
They have that extra new concert. Now, in this case, it was really, that could be an option, but actually it's not an option. There are 57 people working in our team. There are over 1,400 clients in the world after 20 years. There are retail partners, etc. You can't just stop. So then you start thinking, so what's my job? What happens if something happens to me? And it was really understanding what is my role in the company and what could happen if something happens to me. I think also, and a lot of young entrepreneurs, young meaning they just want to launch their brand, come to me and they say, I want to create my brand, whatever it is. And I am like, do you know how you can get out of your brand? They look at me and that's not a thought. It wasn't a thought for me when I started the brand. How am I going to get out of the brand? You know, there are a lot of entrepreneurs who create a company to make money and basically exit. And when you're a creative entrepreneur like us, you don't think that way. So you've got
don't
four
name
options.
The brand after yourself, huh?
Exactly. You've got four options, and it's A, you go bankrupt. B, you sell your company. And in our little world of artisanal watchmaking, up till very recently, it was not an option. Nobody would buy it. So that you start with thinking it's not an option. Giving it to your kids. My children are today 7 and 11, so that's a long way to go. Or else die. That's the four options you have. There are no other fifth option. And so you have to start thinking of what happens if something happens to you. And that's been my big project over the last, I'm going to say 2 to 3 years. And it's a mentoring project. It's a moment in my life which I really, really enjoy, I must admit.
You just mentioned recently in an interview that you were finally happy, that you didn't aspire to be happy, but that you were happy. Is it the age? Is it because of commercial success? Is it family? What makes you so happy?
That's wow. It's basically all sorts of factors coming together. I never expected it to be easy at MB&F, and it's not. But it's way easier than it ever was the first 15 years. And I expected it to be rough and hard, and it was the price to pay to be proud. It was the price to pay to be independent, to abide by your values. Family-wise, when I hit 40 and I was divorced and I thought I would never meet my soulmate and I would never have children. And now I'm 57 and I've got 2 daughters and we're an incredible family. So I've got the 2 sides of my life which are actually at a level which I never expected. And I didn't recognize it until end of last year, one of my colleagues in our 360-degree performance review, when I said, how can I improve? What can I do better? And he looked at me and he said, we would just like you to be happier. And it was a hit in the guts. I was like, what do you mean? And then I realized, damn, I am actually happy. But my software has been programmed for decades of being in danger, and that I didn't let go. And it's a good thing I didn't let go. And I still don't let go, don't get me wrong. But there is a point of me to recognize and just look at and say, wow, this is amazing.
So let's explore this a bit more, because it's true that you have had incredible success in the high-end watch brands, and you recognize now, as you mentioned, and the business is slightly easier and picking up. So this could bring complacency, happiness, complacency. But you, as you say, you're not complacent. The brand is still evolving. I mean, you try new collaborations, you open new galleries, you put yourself in danger. I mean, so what is the recipe of still keeping this entrepreneurship? Is it kind of madness? Do you like the adrenaline and the danger? Or do you just don't want to accept the status quo? What still drives you?
I think it all boils down to the why I created this company. It's a life decision. It's not a business decision. And as a life decision, the whole point is to be proud. To be proud the last day of my life, to be able to look back as a human being, as a creator, as an entrepreneur. And pride, maybe it's a Calvinistic part of me, pride comes from difficulty. Pride comes from taking risks. And that is basically one of my biggest engines, my motors, which makes me advance. I'll always remember 2018, I was having a meeting with one of our very important retail partners, Michael Tay from the Hourglass in Singapore. And he looked at me and he said, Max, you're becoming predictable.
Ooh,
honestly, he would have said, I don't like what you do. It's completely okay. But my gosh, that was a kick in the teeth. And I remember being stunned. And I have to thank him, because I was like, but we're so creative. We keep on coming. He's like, yeah, but 1 year legacy machine, 1 year horological machine, 1 year you're doing this, you're doing that, and your horological machines are all based on your childhood, etc. We've heard the story. You keep on repeating the story, and I think a lot of creators arrive at that 10-year moment where they've said everything they were going to say, that they planned saying, and then they start iterating. And I realized I was doing that, and it was a big impetus to pivot, to rethink myself. The MAD editions came from there, all sorts of other ideas, something you're going to see early next year, which is not an HM, an LM, or a MAD, all sorts of things where, you know what, we can't become predictable. So that is a very important part of me and therefore of the team. And you have to surround yourself with people like that, otherwise they go bananas. Because if the guy on top is consistently putting your company in danger, yourself in danger, as soon as something works, we change it. You need to be surrounded with people who think the same way.
And you seem to be surrounded. I mean, let's maybe explore this team's. Sorry, you called your brand MB&F, Max Büsser and Friends. Who are the Fs? Are it your employees? Is it your customers? Are it really your friends? What does the F stand for? And are they the same than you? I mean, you're as forward-looking as entrepreneur than you?
Not all, but they usually share the same values. I think that was the common point is nice people. People who treat others the way you want to be treated. And that is what makes one of the greatest keys of our success. Now, of course, 19 years ago when I created the brand, I was all alone in my flat. So the friends were originally all the people I developed and created the first piece with. And then very quickly, a few months later, it was 6 retailers who were crazy enough to believe in me and put a third of their first order on table in cash 2 years before I delivered. And then it became the first clients who were ready to spend that very important amount of money on an unknown brand. We're talking of 20 years ago. And slowly, it became a 360. It's everybody who's involved. And of course, it's all the people in the team. Now we're 57. And so that's the heart. But it's a molecule with all sorts of atoms. And I that's one of the things which makes me happy and makes me proud, is that we're surrounded with people who share the same values. Now, not all of them are as nuts as we are, but I've seen typically with the artisans we work with, 15 years ago, it was tough for them when I came with my ideas. Let's try this, let's try that. And they're like, oh my gosh, we've never done that. I don't know if it's possible. And now the circle has become like, what's new? They look at me. What's new? What are you coming out with? What are we going to try? Because that pride is infectious. And if you have a whole group of people, and it seems corny, motivated by pride, it goes way further than motivated by money.
Well, the motivation by money usually doesn't last long. Huh? It's just when you get a pay raise.
Exactly.
So how do you still find the inspiration? I mean, did you need to change something? I mean, you mentioned you become predictable. Did you start a new sport? Did you do traveling? Some people just take a break. I mean, how do you still find this energy and this pioneering inside of yourself?
So a few years back, I used to panic when there were like 3-4 months where I didn't create something. And I was starting, oh my gosh, that's it. I've finished. I'm out. I'm burned out. I'm like that old guy that keeps on saying the same thing. And you realize that creativity, it comes by waves. In my case, I always create when I'm alone. I create when I'm not in a team, not in front of a screen. And screens have been a big issue over. So yes, we have, like with kids, by the way. But for me, if you're all the time interacting with others, you're not creating, not for me. I need to be completely switched off. I used to create a lot in planes, but now I've got Wi-Fi on Emirates. So that's the end of that one. And so I have to take an hour. When in our lives do you take an hour and you go and sit in the garden without a screen and just think? You know how long an hour is when you have nothing to do?
Well, you
it
can
can
even check the
seem like
time on
years.
your phone now because you have no phone.
Exactly, because today, we're all constantly, when we have 20 seconds at a traffic light, we're checking our emails. And so you take an hour, sit down, and let your mind wander. The first times, I actually sometimes would fall asleep, especially when I had younger kids. But now you just let yourself wander and say, okay, now I want to think about this and I want to think about that. You can come up with so many ideas in an hour, or just one, or none, but it's okay. You have to accept that creativity is not something which you actually bully into. It has to happen on its own terms.
So you said you create when you're alone. Are you like the authors who create during the night? They're more prolific during the night because that's the moment that they're simply alone and out of time.
I create more on. No, it's not. There's no particular period of the day. It's when I force myself to not have any interaction with anybody. And you basically all you have is your watch, a mechanical watch, not your Apple Watch, and you put half an hour, and you say, I've got half an hour. I'm not going to speak to anybody. I'm not going to look at anybody. Try that. I mean, especially when you have families and a job, that's an insane luxury. And then you start training your brain to actually create more and take more risks and be, how do I say, be confident enough in yourself. Because us creators, we're always in doubt. And doubt is good, because if I'm not terrified by one of my ideas, it's probably not a great idea. But you have to have the courage to say, okay, that's one of the jobs I do, which I don't know how it's going to be replaced. I am the world champion of having really weird, stupid ideas, which could actually put the company in jeopardy, which could actually lose money. But that's what makes MB&F great. And so how do we foster that, not only in me, but with other people in the team? And that's not an easy one.
So yeah, you speak about pride and you, I mean, you are recognized by the industry. Huh? I mean, you had the honor in 2022 to win the Oscar of the watchmaking, the Aiguille d'Or du Grand Prix de l'Horlogerie de Genève with the legacy machine Sequential Evo. I mean, and this was the 9th prize that you won in the competition. So is this important for you, or is the recognition of your F's friends and consumers, customers more important? How do you value that? Weight that up?
That's a good question. How do I respond to that? Let's put it this way. Initially, at the beginning of MB&F, I was terrified that nobody was going to buy anything I was going to do, because it was so out there. It was so radical. And now, 19 years later, I'm not going to say I'm terrified, but I'm scared of disappointing the tribe of fans and owners of MB&F. People who believe in us. We've created a whole momentum. We have inspired people to think differently, to take risks, to be more creative, which is actually the why of our company. And I realized that in my case, if I'm not proud of it, we could disappoint the others. If I'm pretty proud of what we're doing, it'll be okay. So the prizes, the Aiguille d'Or, of course, we were so proud. The team was so happy and so proud. When it's your peers, the people in your industry who say that's the greatest watch of the year, especially for a very small team like ours. Is it a goal? Absolutely not. Putting on a smile on somebody's face when she or he has either bought one of our pieces, tried one of our pieces, or just seen one of our pieces. I get so many messages on social media today where people say, I will never be able to afford one of your pieces, but thank you. That's the record. That is what makes us really continue to want to do what we do.
So that's maybe, I mean, let's move into the next crazy idea that you had. These are the mad watches, of course. I mean, because everybody knows you for creating very high-end timepieces inspired by your childhood. I mean, called horological. I always have trouble saying that, horological, and legacy machines. Very special, very high-end. And then now you came up with the mad watches. what was the trigger, and how do you make very high end and very entry luxury cohabit?
I was just reflecting the other day on the fact that one of the things which makes us proud at MB&F is that in the last 19 years, we've done absolutely everything wrong. Meaning, if you go and do an MBA, if you read a management book, we're so wrong. We do exactly what they tell you not to do. But for us, it's always
stay in your price range. Stay in your price range.
Typically, you're a very high-end artisanal brand, which is finally recognized after nearly 2 decades at being at a certain level. And there you go and do something which everybody tells you, do not do that. And I remember a few people around me, I shared the idea, and they were like, and they cared for me. They're like, you can't do that. You're putting yourself in danger, which of course, that's the phrase you shouldn't tell me. But why did I do this? Because actually, when I created MB&F at the beginning, I already had the idea of a lower end price point brand. And why was that? Not because I thought of it as a business, but because I come from a family, from a middle class family, where my friends, my family, my childhood friends, nobody can afford an MB&F. So you arrive at a point in your life where you've finally created this incredible creative entity, created these incredible products, managed more than anything else to assemble an amazing team, but the people you love can't share in that. So in 2014, actually, I created what was going to become the Mad One. I designed it, and I was actually building a brand around it from 2014 to 2018, a whole new brand. And in 2018, I killed the brand because it was in 2017, my second daughter was born. And I realized I don't have enough time for my family. I don't have enough time for MB&F. What the hell am I thinking? What makes you think that you can actually launch a second brand in parallel? So I killed it. And then 2020, I was telling you, lockdown, to send everybody back home. And that was the 17th of March. Like a week later, we're on a Zoom for our first Zooms with everybody in the team. And I'm like, okay, guys, I've left all the profits of the company in the company. They're not much, but we didn't know if the government was going to help in those days. And I can support your salaries for probably another 12 to 14 months, and then it's finished. So let's try and find solutions. And somebody said, oh, well, we have that cheaper watch we had created. And you look at that person, you go, seriously? You think the world is falling apart? We're going to go launch a new brand
and save the company with a cheaper brand that is not in the DNA.
But it was a good idea. But is this the moment? No, my gosh, no. And then we thought, we don't want to launch a brand. We talked about a brand which has only 4 issues when you create a brand. If we create an edition means we can do it once only, and then we stop. And then we said, okay, let's launch like 500 pieces. And with a bit of luck, we'll sell those 500 pieces, bring a little bit of money more into the company and sustain the company a little longer. And we do that. But then 3-4 months later, we noticed that we're not in jeopardy and that the demand is crazy on MB&F. And then we realized, oh my gosh, we can't launch this mad edition because now we're going to harm MB&F. But everything is launched in production. So now we have to do something with these 500 pieces. And therefore, we start brainstorming and we say, you know what, let's just use it as a thank you. And we only reserve it to the friends, all the artisans who worked on our concept over the last, more than in those days was 16, 17 years, and the tribe members, the MB&F owners, to say thank you, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. And we don't talk about it. We don't put it on our website. We don't put it on social media. We just send out emails in, I think it was February 2021. And of course, 2 days later, somebody of our clients posts it on Instagram, and the world goes ballistic. And that's a really scary moment, because suddenly we have thousands of people being in one way happy and in another way very angry with us. We are fans of MB&F. We can never afford MB&F. You finally create something we can afford, and you reserve it to the people who can afford MB&F. I will not explicit the insults we got, but there were a lot. And I get it. I get it that you're upset. And we didn't talk for a month. we let this whole narrative escape us. Very scary on social media. And then I did a little 5-minute video that I posted explaining why we did it and how we came to do it. And at the end of those 5 minutes, I said, okay, guys, I've heard you. We will do something for you next year. And that's how we actually decided to do the next one, which was the red one. And then we were thinking, but do we want to treat our customers so badly that they have to line up in front of the store for hours? No, that's not very respectful. That's not what nice people do. Do we want to make our clients be in front of their computer at 1 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever in front with their credit card trying to get there on a drop, which is horrible. We've all experienced that. It's horrible. No. And that's how we invented the raffle. So as it goes, I'm not going to say it's a knee-jerk reaction, but we wanted to do something for people which had lesser means. It was not a business project. From the beginning, we said, this is not going to become a brand. And now we've been aspirated in the demand. You should never grow your company because there's demand. You should grow your company on your own terms because you believe that it should be at a certain size or do a certain thing. But it's not because their last raffle, there were 25,000 people registering for 500 watches. Does that mean we're going to do 25,000? No. We have decided it's going to be a small part of our company and we don't want it to take over. But again, we learn as we grow and we grow as we learn.
So, but I mean, I think the moral of this statement is that you listen to your tribe, you listen to social media, you listen to your clients, you don't want to disappoint, but you still have a business understanding and you protect your company because that's what you need to do. And you need to protect that desirability of MB&F as well. And the smartwatches have to be special and you should be deciding when and how you bring out a new edition.
Today, clearly, if the mad editions were available, if we actually made 20,000 a year, we do about 3,000, 3,500. If we made 20,000, not only would mad edition be dead, but MB&F would be dead also. So it's a good reminder that short-term decisions are usually very bad on long-term. And as we're playing the long game, because this is the legacy we're preparing. The interesting part is that by creating these 2,900 franc watches, don't get me wrong, 2,900 francs is not cheap, but it's clearly much less than 150,000. We are actually speaking now to a whole new community, young or not young, and that makes me incredibly happy. We have incredible discussions with these people, and again, we did this without realizing where it was going to lead, and I think we should all be happy where it is leading.
Yeah, and I think we've seen as well in the recent years with the secondary market of watches becoming so important, more and more youngsters entering the watch market, which was a niche watch market before. And now we see much more interest of all the youngsters that are 20. I mean, my son is 21, super interested in watches. He was not necessarily before. He was just wearing watches. Now he's really interested in the market as such. So it's quite nice to see the interest. What I'd like to explore more, Max, is so you mentioned you've launched a mad edition. It is a raffle, but then you can only buy it online.
Yes.
Your more traditional MB&F watches, you mentioned average watch price point 150K, would be still more bought in brick and mortar because it's of course a certain value to be bought online. But we've recently seen as well with the launch of the Moon's watch. Again, it was an inspiration of the Omega Speedmaster into a more affordable watch. Here, it was to pull people back to the store. It was, I mean, the Moon's watch could only buy bought in store, and we saw the long queues that you were referring to after your first edition. You have chosen only to put it online. So the Mad Edition only online, and I think MB&F in store, but you don't even have really stores. You have galleries because you always don't do things like others. What has triggered, maybe what is the thought process behind these two models, and why again do you try to be special, or are you special?
Again, treat people the way you want to be treated. That's the mantra. So we wanted to make it as frictionless and seamless and easy for everybody who follows what we do. And the raffle online seemed the right thing. if you start making, we've also discovered that exceptions are an absolute headache because exceptions make that everybody challenges the rule. So and at some point we thought, are we going to do it online? But there are also 50 pieces or 100 pieces in our galleries. But then you end up in this hybrid system where everybody feels it's unfair. And all of us have different triggers. One of my very big triggers is if I feel something is unfair, is due to my childhood. For many reasons, I felt that I had a lot of things were unfair when I was a kid. And so it's very deeply rooted in me. So Mad Edition, it seemed right to be only online. And we didn't know where this was going. When we did the first raffle, we didn't know if 20 people would sign up or 20,000. Well, it ended up being, I think, 18,000 for the first one. And we were like, wow, this is amazing. Knowing that we never talk about, in those days, we never even talked about the product. Now, MB&F, for sure, you need to, everybody tells us the watches are so much more beautiful in real than in photos. We thought we had pretty good photos, but clearly when you have one on your wrist, it's a completely other experience. But having said that, we keep 20% of the MB&Fs for our Mad Gallery in Geneva. So we craft about 400 now pieces a year. We keep about 80 pieces for Geneva. How many of those 80 pieces are the people actually entering the gallery? Maybe 10 to 15%. Maybe 10, 12 people actually came into the gallery to try one. And 80 to 90% are people just writing to us from all over the world saying, I want this piece. Now, of course, if you're already an MB&F owner, you know who we are, you know how we work, you've already tried, you've already worn, it's easier. But more and more, I am really amazed how many people just write to us and say, we just did the launch of the sequential flyback, it's 188,000 francs ex VAT. The amount of people we have never met who are like, I want to send you the money, how can I get it? How is that even possible? Just based on seeing photos. So things are evolving on that. I think part of it is the FOMO. We have to be very careful of that. It's like, if I don't buy it now, I'm never going to get it. So people are ready to send money if they have it, of course. But then you have also the risk that they're disappointed because they didn't try it on. And then they may want to resell it. And that's when people want to resell immediately having after bought it. It's not a great thing. Coming back to the galleries, why did we create the gallery at the beginning? That was in 2011. It was because initially we only had horological machines, which were these crazy 3D kinetic art pieces based on watchmaking. And our watch retailers, when I showed them the piece, would go, well, this is not really a watch, which I agree with them, by the way. And then I went to see art galleries thinking, would you want to present this in your art gallery? And the guys would look at me and like, this is a watch. So clearly, we were in some sort of weird hybrid territory. And we had this idea of creating a mechanical art gallery, not only because we didn't find retailers who were ready to sell our pieces, but because we thought they're a decoding machine. If you see the kinetic and mechanical art we curate of other artists, maybe you'll understand our creative process. And then over the years, it's morphed. Because when success arrives, you realize it's time to give back. And therefore, most of the artists we curate in our Mad galleries are orphans, meaning most of the traditional galleries are not interested in what they do. So we've helped over the years dozens of incredibly talented artists who couldn't find a home for their artwork and didn't have an outlet for people to communicate their passion. And it makes me incredibly happy and proud today to help them. And yes, it's I'm not going to say it's a rounding error, but it's a very small part of our revenue, the art pieces we sell, but we're sustaining 10, 15 artists who can actually live their art thanks to us. That's important.
Yeah, and I have had the pleasure to visit your Dubai and Geneva Mad Gallery, and You can spend a lot of time there. Huh? It's amazing to discover the different pieces and very diverse on the wall in the store, standing the table with the ball in the sand. I mean, it's amazing. I think it's really worthwhile, and it fits quite well into the mechanical pieces that you are producing.
Sorry, and I'll just actually piggyback on that. One of the reasons of these mad galleries today is that most of them are empty. I mean, you can't see many watches. There are none to be had. So we try and have prototypes or something like that. But it's for people who love what we do, who love watchmaking, or even love art, to come and have a coffee. And the team, actually, the challenge is finding really passionate people in the team who just enjoy sitting down for half an hour, and talking about and sharing about what we love, which doesn't have to be MB&F. And that's, again, that would be a place I would like to hang out in. So that's what we've created.
And I confirm that's what it sounds like if you enter the gallery as well. We speak about mechanics, but we like to speak about technology in our podcast. And my question is, what is your approach towards technology? I mean, we've spoken about craftsmanship, about innovation. AI, Gen AI is used more and more in the creative process as well. It can be used for back office, of course, to ease up the time spent on unnecessary tasks. What is your approach to technology? Is it more maybe, I mean, we were speaking about online, to be closer to consumer, to animate the tribe, the community, or is it really a help for you in the way that you're running the business?
I will honestly say we're very much analog dinosaurs at MB&F. It's very much, we try and keep the human relationship being the number one point of what we do. But let's be clear, we were just talking a few years ago with Stephen McDonald, the genius creator of our perpetual and sequential, and how today with SolidWorks, which is CAD drawing, which is incredibly efficient, with CNC machines, we're capable of doing things that, of course, 100 years ago, nobody could do. And even with that, it took us all together 4 to 5 years to create every one of those pieces. And thinking, how did they do in 1820 to create this minute repeater, split-second chronograph, perpetual calendar, pocket watch, which is so beautiful. And today, you basically strip it down, clean it, oil it, reassemble it, and it actually works. And they only had a pencil and a paper, and they had mechanical lathes. Let's not forget where we come from. It's just mind-blowing. Technology has helped us to be more efficient, faster, but let's not lose ourselves in that, because there are too many brands today which have gone all industrialized, and we are creating an object which is totally pointless. The only reason it exists is either because it's a work of art and a work of artisanship. So if we're doing these incredibly efficient industrial objects selling at the price of artisanal handmade pieces, what are we doing? So let's not lose focus of what is our mission as high-end artisanal watchmakers, because I just think that there is a tendency of our industry to lose itself. And I think that's very important that and it's happening now. I find that us independent artisans have been rediscovered, also because a certain amount of the ecosystem of clients are realizing, I want a piece of soul. I want a piece of workmanship. I want a piece of human beings who've sweat blood to create this piece. That's what makes it even more interesting than just a beautiful object. And that is where we are keeping the fort.
It makes me think about, lab-grown diamond versus, traditional diamonds. Where is the emotion? Because luxury creates the emotion, and can a lab-grown diamond, for example, create the emotion of the uniqueness, the difficulty to find it, to get it, and to shape it? So I think that's a bit the parallel that I would see there.
It's a very interesting parallel. And I think also in our industry, and in what they call, I hate the word luxury, but let's call it that way, high-end, price is more and more decorrelating from value, intrinsic value. Now, value could be emotional, of course, but let's not lose sight that branding and status, depending which country you come from, cannot overtake your real intrinsic value of what the product was made. And there's a danger there. There's a danger for our industry.
So, yeah, we were speaking about how you see the industry, and we like to finish our podcast as well asking the question, how would you see the watch industry in 5 years? I mean, how would it evolve? The products, the way of buying, the consumers. What are your predictions?
It's honestly, we're very much in a black swan era, aren't we? It's Pierre Dac who used to say, the only thing that I'm sure of is I'm sure of nothing. It seems that, okay, let me take a step back actually here. Success is incredibly toxic for people and for companies. And the watch industry has just gone through 3 insane years of success. Success is dangerous. Why? Because you stop creating, you stop taking risks, and you usually start treating people around you not as nicely as before. And I think our industry in a whole was very much going down that road. I think now, with what's happening with the industry, which is coming down to a normalization, there will be more creativity, more risk-taking, and I think the customer will, again, I hope, become more center of the... I'm not talking creatively. We should, again, I don't think we should create... You should be customer-centric when you create. You should be creative-centric. Because when you're customer-centric, you're only doing marketing and evolving and doing the same thing as everybody else. But as far as the service you give to your client, I think this industry has got a long stride to become much nicer and much more client-centric. So I think it's going in the right direction now. At least I hope so.
That's a great way of finishing the podcast. I think you mentioned a lot. Don't do to others what you would like to be done to you, and be nice, treat others as you want to be treated. So I think this is really, a great DNA that you have, and that makes people proud as well, to wear an MB&F or a MAD edition on their wrist. So thank you for what you do. I hope that the legacy will be easy, that we will see you for long, that we'll see MB&F for long. It's a real pleasure talking to you. It's so inspiring, so nice, and great podcast. Thank you so much, Max, for being here.
Thank you, Karine, and thank you for all these questions, because they make me think. Normal human beings don't have other people standing in front of them going, so why did you do that? And so actually these interviews act as a psychotherapy for me. So thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Luxury on Air with Karine Szegedi and Felicitas Morhart. This podcast is provided to you by Deloitte, Switzerland, and the Swiss Center for Luxury Research. If you've enjoyed this episode, you can leave us a 5-star review. If you're keen to stay up to date on what's trending in the luxury industry, don't forget to subscribe. As always, you can find more information about the current episode in the show notes. We wish you all the best. Until next time.